Today on Crazed Performance Repair, we have, imagine that, another GM with a displacement on demand possible issue. However, this one's a little different than the typical video. If you have not seen my full release trick video yet, I suggest you watch that one. I will throw it in the corner up here. But otherwise, this one's going to be a little bit unique in a couple respects. So stay tuned. So this vehicle, it has the typical lifter noise. I'll go ahead and start it up in a second here. However, the misfire is just the random misfire. That's all it gives me. So the P0300 code, which is a random misfire code. It does not give me a specific cylinder misfire. Now, I've had a lot of people say they had this, but every vehicle I've had up to this date has always had the cylinder that is misfiring as a code. So it'd be the 301, which would be cylinder 1. 4, 6, or 7, which is all the DOD cylinders, 1, 4, 6, 7. This one, however, does not have that code. All it has is the random misfire. Now, it does have the obvious tick, but it also does not have an obvious misfire. It runs smooth, which is also another thing that I've had people say that they've had for an issue. But all the ones that I have had a dead miss. So you'd start it up, you'd look at the engine, and you'd see the engine doing its little shake, the normal shake. This one does not do that. It's nice and smooth. So what I think is happening, we're going to find out, is cylinder 1, and the only reason I know that, I'll explain in a second, cylinder 1 has a lifter that is partially collapsed. So by being partially collapsed, it's still opening the valve just a little bit, but the rocker still is loose. But we won't know that for sure. This is a hypothesis at this point. We won't know that for sure until I actually pull it apart. Now, the reason I know it's cylinder 1, so I went on the scan tool, and I watched live data, and the live data that I looked at was for the misfires specifically. Now, the active live misfire counter was not moving at all on any cylinders. It was 0. However, when I go down to the history misfires on the live data, it shows cylinder 1 with a lot of misfires. It was like 39,000 misfires or something like that. So that is definitely the cylinder with the misfire that's happening intermittently, and I'd imagine that misfire is only happening under load because there's not enough airflow going in versus the fuel that it causes a misfire. I did not verify by test drive. I just imagine that's the case because that's the only thing that makes logical sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead, pull this valve cover, save you guys the trouble of watching me pull everything apart, and I will be right back with a valve cover off, and we'll see if the rocker is actually loose. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and start it for you guys so you can hear the noise on this particular vehicle. And hopefully this new microphone that I have picks up the audio better than my last camera and microphone situation. So right now I'm talking with about the same level of voice. So the motor is fairly quiet aside from the loud ticking that is going on. You can hear the ticking is plenty loud. I'm going to go ahead and speak up now to make sure you guys can hear me. But that ticking is very loud, and from my perspective where I'm at right now, I can hear it is definitely in this front corner, so it's got to be number 1. It does not sound like it's off in the distance at all, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it off and get that valve cover off. Alright, so we have the valve cover off. It's quite filthy in here. This guy needs an engine flush, but that's besides the point. So we have the rockers here. They are both currently tight. I have a ratchet over here. Now, they're tight because it's actually open right now. So the valve is slightly open, and I believe it's exactly what I suspect, but I'm going to go ahead and lay a bar across the top here, and I should be able to... Oh, it collapsed because of the valve pressure. We'll go ahead and turn it a little bit, see if it opens up at all. Nope. We'll go ahead and we'll just move it back and forth for you so you can see it move rather than try and put a bar across the top. Okay, so we're going to go back quite a ways, because I know it's at the top of the cam lobe right now. Alright, so we'll check the rocker once, and look at that, it's nice and sloppy loose. And then I'll go ahead and turn the motor over, and this valve should move just a little bit. There it goes. Now if I bring this over here, I should be able to line it up with the other one, and then... See that? So it's not level. I'm going to the valve spring over on that side and going from this valve spring to this valve spring, and then I'm letting it hover over this, and I push down and you can see that it's obviously got some lift to it because this valve is down and slightly open. So the concern is exactly what I thought it was. It is a partially opening valve, which eliminates the misfire at idle because it still has enough air for the vehicle to fire and not misfire at idle. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing all torn down, and then we'll go ahead and try the lift or release attempt quick, and hopefully this one can release. Now, my concern with this particular scenario is that if it's not shutting or not collapsing all the way, is it that wedged that it's not going to be able to come undone? I guess we'll find out. So perhaps what I'll do is I have my old original tool, which is the first iteration of the revised tool, I guess. So not necessarily the first iteration, but it's the tool I'm currently selling the most of right now. But I have designed an upgrade to that tool, or changed the tool itself, and it's basically with heat treating, and that's what this one is here. And I have some videos on that, but they're all private, unlisted, or not private, but unlisted videos, and they can be found on the website once I release the tool officially on the website. That's going to be happening very shortly if it hasn't already. But we're going to go ahead and try the old tool. If I can't release it with that tool, we'll try the new tool. And if it doesn't release with that tool, then this is a very rare circumstance. Now, is this an aluminum block or an iron block? It is a... Okay, it's an aluminum block on this one. So that's good. That means we can test the tool out. It's not good for the customer. It means it's less likely to release. But then again, with my new tool, I should be able to release it, which I have a video on releasing one that was very stubborn. So I'm going to go ahead, try and release this, and then we'll continue. I see there's a broken exhaust manifold bolt too, and you should be able to see that in the previous video clip that I just did where I was looking at the rockers. But I'm going to go ahead, get this thing attempted, and we'll continue on. Alright, so one more little note before I go ahead and try doing the release trick here. There is the Vlam plate right here. That's where we have to access for doing the release trick. Now, I've suggested it many times before. Be sure to check these Vlam bolts. This one is a prime example of the reason why you need to check those Vlam bolts. At least I believe it's going to be, because the first thing I did before I even pulled the intake off was grab these two bolts, and they are both finger tight, so I can loosen them up, just turn them by hand. So on camera, I'm going to go ahead and check the rest of them, just out of curiosity. Loose, 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 loose. Tight-ish, at least. Tightish. Okay, so just from these two forward are all loose. And being number one failed, I'm willing to bet you that the two gaskets here, one of those gaskets is leaking, and it's losing the pressure for it, and that's why that one failed. So these Vlam bolts are very important. You should check them before you even drive your vehicle any longer if you haven't checked them yet and you don't have the system turned off. Be sure to at least check those bolts and tighten them down if need be. Of course, you cannot tighten any of the rest of them, just these two. You could maybe get at one or two of these if you were to really get creative. But just pull the intake off. It's not that hard. Tighten them down. All right, we're going to continue with trying to release the deal after I get this pulled off here. All right, we're going to go ahead and do another release here. The rocker arm is sitting right here. I just pulled it off, so the push rod is still in there. We're going to go ahead and give this thing an attempt. First thing we're going to try is using my old tool, which is very beat up and very shortened because of how many times I've been using it and resharpening it, and I just keep going with the same one over and over again. But anyway, we're going to try this one first and see how it goes. Now, for those who don't know, I go ahead and I stick this guy in there. I got to make sure it's in the right position, and then I start whacking it with a hammer first, and then eventually I move to my needle scaler unit here, and that typically gets it released. Now, if it doesn't release, then I'm going to go ahead and go to my new tool design, because that one seems to transfer energy better. From here on out, I'll probably start using this one, though, rather than even trying this one, because this thing's, first of all, worn out, but secondly, it just works better anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and try. You guys watch for the push rod to fly out. I'll go ahead and do a slow-mo if it does. So the hammer doesn't appear to be working, so I'm moving to the little needle scaler air hammer thing here. We're going to give that a shot. A couple pieces of debris here that are going to try and fall in. Doesn't appear to even be trying to do anything. I don't think it's going to go with that tool. I honestly don't. I'm going to go ahead and rotate the motor and check my position. I think I'm at the top of the cam lobe right now, but I'm going to move it to a different position. Push rod still pushed down nice and easy. I'm going to go ahead and check where I'm at with this. It did pop up once, but yeah. Okay, so it's definitely still completely loose. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the hammer with this tool and see if that helps. So now it looks like it's trying to get it. It's slowly pushing it up as it's hitting it. So yeah, it's sliding the rock or the lifter up as I'm hitting it. I'm going to go ahead and go back to this guy here and see what happens. I'm going to let it raise itself up, and then we'll go again with the air hammer. It's not going up this time. Okay. Bring it back up a little bit on the lobe. We'll just go up a little ways so we're kind of in between the two positions we've already tried. No, and I can feel the energy transferring too through this tool. This thing vibrates really bad compared to the other one. The other one, it just absorbs it. And there it is. Finally. So I had to clean the oil off, clean the tip, and then it finally went. I can see it slowly working its way up, and then it finally released. Okay, as you've seen, I have the lifter released. I have put everything back together. If you want to see any more information on this, of course, be sure to click that little eye that's sitting up there in the corner, because that eye brings you to the video where I actually describe how to check it, how to fix it, what to do after you fix it. There's a lot of things going on. Now, this one, I did not do a tune yet. I just did my Vlam modification. The tune is going to be done per the customer. He's going to just take the vehicle home. They live nearby. They're going to take the vehicle home, send it off to get the tune done after the fact, and just park the vehicle while the computer's gone. And the person that I use for that is lt1swap.com. If you don't already know, great place to go. Very, very affordable. Way more affordable than finding a local speed shop. But of course, a local speed shop is an option if you can't wait for a tune to get done via shipping back and forth. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to start this thing up. And we're going to listen to see if the tick is gone, if the problem is fixed. I believe it's going to hold. I did my test like I did in my original video, again in the corner. And we're going to go ahead and see if it holds like I think it will. So I think I have everything plugged in, I believe. But of course, that's always a question when doing a job like this. Did you get every little connector? I believe so. Let's give it a shot. Got a bit of a tick to it still. I don't like the way it sounds. It's not near as loud as it was before. But it's got a little bit of a stumbling going on too. I'm going to have to check the spark plug. But I'm going to check one more thing and then bring the RPMs up and see if the oil pressure helps it getting it a little bit up in the oil pressure range. Because it does not sound very good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the plug. I'll be right back to finish this video up. Okay, so I decided for craps and giggles I would just go ahead and pull it out and then rev it up a bit. It's a lot quieter. Sounds a lot better. Still got a little bit of a tick though. So we're going to still go ahead and take it for a quick drive just to see how it responds. Now I still have the engine light on. Service tire monitor is flashing away, of course. I'm sure it's because they have a spare on. Alright, so we have a oil pressure of almost 50 psi. I do feel a little bit of a stutter, a little bit of a shake going on. We're just going to go ahead and take it for a drive anyway. Like I said, service engine light is still on. I have not cleared anything. So we'll see how this thing responds And hopefully my new microphone can work a lot better in the vehicle. My old one was really crummy, sounded terrible. Anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and see how this thing responds here. Give it a... Feels good. Feels perfectly good. Of course, I got the sun in your guys' eyes, so you can't really see much, I'm sure. I'm going to go ahead and turn here so we can get a little bit better view for you. We'll get the sun to our backs. Alright, that should work a little bit better. Let's go ahead and give it a little pin skis and see how it feels. I don't feel anything that feels like a misfire. The engine light isn't flashing. I have a feeling we're good to go. I just have to let it idle a little bit here and see how it feels and sounds after it sits, because now that I did that, it should have cleaned out whatever deposits might have been stuck in there, at least a little bit. Okay, so you can see the engine light's still on, of course. Oil pressure is still plenty high. We're going to go ahead and see how the vehicle sounds now that now that I have stopped. It's still running. Huh. Interesting. Totally quiet. So that's definitely a new one for me. I have never had one make that much noise pulling out and then become quiet. I figured that'd just be a bad lifter. So glad it worked out. And of course, visit my website, cruise around there a little bit, crazedperformancerepair.com. Like, share, subscribe, and as always, I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go ahead and finish up this job in the meantime.